OverDrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. We're talking about Tiger Woods, actually, and his next brand deal. You can actually bet on it on FanDuel, which is amazing. We got to get some. You want to see some odds?
Spice a little on it.
Okay. They've got plus 180 as a personal brand only. So people are suggesting like he's just going to launch his own clothing line.
I don't think he's going to do that.
That seems like a lot of work.
It does.
You know, like you've got to market that a lot.
Think about it this way, though. Like, Charlie's coming up. You establish that, then by the time Charlie's 18 and of age, like, you establish that TW brand. Now, all of a sudden, you're talking legacy here.
Okay. Do you think Charlie's a lock to make the tour?
Well, I'm just saying, like, I mean, I think Tiger would love for that to happen.
There's
Obviously,
no shot
he would.
he's a lock.
No, he is not a lock. Like, I'm not trying to be.
Dude, there's a zillion kids in Florida that beat up on him on tournaments.
He went to the Nota Begay, and he got in there, which was really tough for his age. And the winner was like 14 or 15 under, and I think he was 2 or 3 under. Just still really good, and he's young. My point is he's not a phenom. He's not Tiger.
Yeah.
Like Bronny James. He is not LeBron.
Right.
Like he's probably a good player. He's a really good player, and he's got a chance. But you know what'd be wild is if Charlie went to live when he got to 19 or 20.
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine that breaking story? Charlie Woods is signed on with Live Golf.
They'd pay him.
They most certainly would. He could be a 15 handicap. They'd pay him. They'd probably pay him $100 million. He goes out and shoots 85. Personal brand only, plus 180. Grayson Clothiers, that's what we're talking about. That's plus 200. TaylorMade Golf, I've read that maybe TaylorMade would look into that.
Why not? Just the TaylorMade brand.
Absolutely.
TW TaylorMade.
Plus 600. See the QI10 is
I'm
out?
only putting money on that. We're TaylorMade guys.
Yes, we love it. And the QI10 looks beautiful. It was posted online today. Check it out on Insta, Twitter. You can find it everywhere.
Hopefully Uncle Nicky can go let us check him out, man. I want to see this thing.
Yeah, we'll get up close and personal at some point. All right, Mike Johnson's coming up here in a moment. Leaf Sharks tonight. What do you think? Do you think the crowd, is there any acknowledgement for Nylander tonight after he signed a deal?
You know what? I think as soon as he touches the puck, they might give a little shout out, a little cheer. Mm-hmm. Who knows? I have no idea. I have no idea how Leafs Nation in that building would respond to something like this. If they're fired up about it, they're happy. I think a lot of people, like, there seems to be these different pockets of following. Like, and William Nylander, he's got a big following. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of William Nylander Nation, they're like, this is a perfect deal. He deserves it. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about
That's
it.
right.
Like,
ecstatic for him.
Yes. They're like, he deserves it, and that's the going rate. So, like, do you know how many times in the last 3 or 4 years when we're giving it to him a little bit because he's not hustling or he's playing like garbage, people will be like, lay off the guy. He's their best player. And it's just like, okay.
I've never quite understood that. I understand you have your favorite players.
Yeah.
I get that. But what has always been strange.
You can't say boo about them.
Yeah, but also like this pitting of Nylander versus Marner. Generally, that's the two, right? It's
Right.
Matthews is a bit different. Tavares is a bit different. Riley's different, etc. But it's like, well, you were so hard on Nylander. Why don't you give it to Marner? Or, hey, man, you're hammering Marner. What about Willie? He missed a check. It's like, I don't know. We're just watching the games.
That's it.
Like, I'm a fan of both players as players. They're both great players.
Yeah. And to be fair, I think the difference there was Martin was making a lot more money at the time. Now it's a little closer. So I think now, like
Right.
Willie, there's going to be more expectations, right?
See, I don't think that's true, though. I was thinking about it more last night. I don't think William Nylander's life will change at all. I think it will come up more, his contract, a little bit.
Yeah.
But if this team doesn't work, it's Matthews and Marner first, in my opinion, in terms of who's going to get a large chunk of the attention on the team. I think the captain will get a lot as well because he's the captain. This market loves to focus on what's the goalie doing, what's the coach doing, what's the GM doing, what's the president doing. Like, I still don't think Willie's going to be in the top 5 in this city in terms of pressure, in terms of, let's say they get to the playoffs and get swept and they're all terrible. I don't think he'll be in the top 5. I don't think he'll be in the top 5 of the whipping boy lineup. And Nylander fans will not accept that because they'll find people that will carve him and say, see, you're too hard on him. But I think Matthews will be in front. I think he should. Matthews is the best player. Like, in sports, if you're the best player, that's where the focus should be. Like, what did you personally do first? How did you lead by example? So Matthews should be there, 1. I think you can make an argument, the captain. I'm not even disagreeing with what I'm suggesting here. I'm just trying to lay out what I'm a believer in.
I think the shiny new contract, if they fizzle out,
I
that'll
agree.
be front and center.
You think he
As far as-
passes
yeah,
who, though?
For this year?
For a year,
I think
for
he'll
a
be
year.
second in line saying, oh, you just signed the richest contract in team history, and that's what you
if
brought.
this guy goes
I don't want to
Huberdeau-
do this.
I'm not trying to be negative.
We're prognosticating negativeness.
I know, you're right. You're right. And listen, maybe on the flip side, it might mirror each other. If they win, he's 5th or 6th in terms of getting flowers. Because I think that's probably true, too. I think if they win, it'll be like Shanahan. I think Shanahan might be first. Thank you for getting the guys. Thank you for sticking to this. And then it'll be, I don't know, Sheldon, Austin, John. Wow, he got the cup first. He was the captain. I guess to spin it the other way, positively or negatively, I'm not sure William Nylander, even with the contract, is going to be in the top 5 of attention, of positive or negative attention, winning or losing. Here's Mike Johnson, our TSN hockey analyst. How would you answer that, Johnny? The contract of Nylander, how it affects, where he stands in the pecking order in this market, if they win or if they lose, in terms of when his name comes up and he gets, his time in the spotlight, so to speak.
Probably the same spot he was before,
which
is third amongst players.
You think he's third behind Matthews and Marner?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think people could appreciate as great as, not talking about the cup celebration and who gets their flowers, but I mean, if it doesn't go well, if they don't win multiple rounds, whatever, they'll point to Austin and Mitch, and then they'll point to Willie third. I think it's always sort of been that way. He's always been the third amigo, but I don't know if the new contract says, well, now you make more than Mitch, so now we're going to look to you first. And to be honest, playoff production and playoff performance hasn't really been a problem for William Nylander. He's been better than, certainly Mitch Marner in that capacity for most of their career. So I don't think that's going to be an issue or a great criticism, or even if they lose, it's not going to be because he didn't play well, because he generally has played well in the playoffs.
What about expectation, though, Johnny? Did the expectations at least rise a lot more than they were previously?
Maybe, AB. I mean, I think it becomes what's realistic? So is he a 50-goal, 120-point guy that he's on pace for right now? Probably not, because nobody's that, right? Connor McDavid is that. That's the only guy who kind of does that every year.
Yeah.
So is he the 40-goal, 87-point guy that he was last year? They probably want a little bit more than that for this contract. So I think expectations have risen, not necessarily to replicate the first half of this year for the next, 8 seasons, but probably to make sure that he's better than the baseline that he created last year. So if that's growing, then that's where they are. I think they would expect him to do more than he did last year, while understanding he's not likely to do what he's done the first 40 games this year for the next 8 years.
Well, I think their expectation, Johnny, is we're paying you like you're playing the first 40 games of this year. It better look something like it.
Well,
if you're getting paid like that, you're getting paid like a top 10 guys, and the top 10 guys in the league, it's like the World Series of poker. It always seems that they're at the final table. The top 10 scorers in the league always seem to be the same guys hovering around there. So if we're going to pay you like that, we expect you to be hovering around there. I think that would be the expectation.
So in 3 years, when he's not in the top 10 paid players in the league, well, then you won't expect that out of him? He's the highest paid, or one of the higher paid wingers in the league, because he's got the latest contract. Mitch will be past him in a year. You mean the next time Rantanen comes up, he'll go past him, as will happen as time expires. So I think,
Johnny, I just meant, just to simplify it, you're getting paid like a star player. Let's just continue on with that.
Yeah, $11.5 million is a 100%. Massive contract.
That's fair and accurate and totally on point. Oh, yes. Listen, dude, you're paid like a rock star, superstar player, not a complimentary, nice offensive piece. You're a star player that we depend on and are paying to produce and play consistently like a star player. So you're capable. We expect you to continue to do so. 100%, that's fair.
What's your Jerry's percentages on Martin Jones starting game 1 of the playoffs?
Oh, my goodness. So, okay, I'll have to
Jerry's percentage?
Yeah, Jerry's percentage.
Mine's 85 right now.
85. Wow, go ahead. Go, John.
Oh, do you remember on a pregame, you guys, or maybe it was an intermission on a quiz, you had this question about whether Samsonov would be the game 1 starter, and you might have been like, 60%. And I came out with a snarky comment. We came back. I'm like, what are these guys talking about? He's the starter. Of course he's going to be the game 1 starter. There's no way. And you were obviously way more on point than I was when it comes to that. So goaltenders are a mystery. So I'll give it a 50-50 shot.
Wow.
I mean,
why? What's your percentage, Hayes?
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm pretty high. I think
This guy keeps going, and he obviously has to play well. And the other kid gets healthy, Wall. He has to come back, and I don't know where he's got to get healthy and get some time in the A. I don't know what he has to do to get back into an NHL lineup, but once he goes in the net, he would have to play extremely well for a long time to take the net from Martin Jones. Like if Martin Jones continues the way this is going.
Right. That's the thing. Or Martin Jones levels off to what is a more expected degree of performance.
What do you think is expected for him, Johnny? I think he's playing fantastic. Maybe he's figured it out at 33.
I don't think he has at 33. I don't think he learned anything new. I think he's having a nice run. He's been a good goalie in his career. I think based on his history, I would not expect him to have an above league average save percentage by the end of the year.
There you guys go. Toronto negative. Thank you very much.
I'm not being negative.
No, it's just
I love the story.
I don't think it's negative. I think it's reality because that's what he's been the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, it's rare that someone gets better. Now, he has been really good in his career. I'm at the rink right now. When he was in San Jose, he was one of the top kind of 5 goalies in the league for 3 or 4 years. He's been really good. Mm-hmm. I just don't know at his age, can he do it consistently to that point? It would be amazing if he did. We've thrown him lots of bouquets about how he was a bit of a season saver for Toronto this signing. What he's done. And now he's played himself probably at the very least into a tandem for a little bit whenever Joseph Woll gets back and healthy, which doesn't sound, I guess he's on the ice now, but on the ice for a goaltender on high ankle sprain does not sound like a start is coming in 10 days if you're just skating around gingerly. Not to mention rust. And how many spots are they going to put Woll in the minors and Samsonov sort of in the minors, but not really? They will have to sort through that as they try to get their goalies healthy.
Yeah, I think at a minimum, Jones... Like, he's at a .932 save percentage. That's not going to happen the rest of the year. Like, if he starts 30 more games at that clip, we're talking Vezina conversations about him. Like, that's not likely going to happen. But is it a position where Trey Living can feel comfortable with that tandem, right? Like, because Samsonov, I don't know. I'm pulling for the guy, but I'm not holding my breath. I'm not holding my breath that he becomes a part of their program again. So, all of a sudden, your reality is a rookie in Joseph Woll and a guy that you sign as your third stringer. Like, that's your tandem when you're in a cup window. I mean, on paper, again, it doesn't feel that enticing. Yet, if you watch the way both guys have played this year, when they've been healthy, they've both been really good.
And a part of it for me is going to be watching it. And I don't know why I have this, but it happened with Samsonov, and it ultimately came to fruition. I'm looking at him. It's like, are you playing good, and do you look dependable? Like, do you look like you're not going to get hurt out there? Because that is such a big thing. It was so deflating. Although the kid went in there last year in the playoffs and he played well, like you have the expectation to win. You need your starting goaltender to be in the net, whoever you determine that to be. So it's like, can you play well and also go through the grind? Like, it's a big question, especially from what we've seen in the Leafs net for the last couple of years.
Yeah, and it's not like Joseph Woll, unfortunately, has a track record of great health. He has been hurt relatively seriously for different times throughout his career. So that is something not to be concerned with. But what I think Jones has done, he certainly bought Trey Living as much time as he wants. Like, he can take it all the way to the deadline with Jones and Woll and whatever else, Hildeby or Samson, whatever, and to decide what's available then. And I think what he also has done, Hayes, he probably has prioritized defensemen over a third goaltender because he's played so well. So maybe, in a perfect world, they could go get somebody, but in a limited asset world and a limited cap world, you know what, we're not going to go chase another goaltender. We're going to trust these guys, even though it's not perfect, but we're going to trust these guys because the alternative is we don't get a defenseman that we really do need to go forward.
MJ, what's your breakdown on the Nylander contract, and what do they do next year? They got a $7.14 to spend on the rest of the team. Yeah,
so it's at the high end of what was probably, I've given you my numbers, right? It was 9.7 in the summer. It was probably 10.5 when he came home from Sweden, and he's pushed it to the upper end of that, which is sort of par for the course for Toronto. But it's a big number. It's around what he deserves for sure, what he's earned, but at the high end of that. The question is, next year is going to be a really big problem. Past next year, we all know Tavares comes off, cap goes up. There will be some more flexibility there, but next year, when those 4 guys, they're going to make what, like $50 million out of 87. That doesn't leave a lot of room to sign 18 other skaters, like $35 million. So, it's going to be really hard. They need entry-level deals. They need value veterans. They need hometown discounts. Now, we just spent time talking about the goaltenders. It seems like they likely will have 2 goalies who will make combined 1.5 next year. That's a great pace to start. There's some baked-in savings based on this team. They're going to have 2 rookies or 2 entry-level deals there, but that's the sort of stuff they're going to need to find, at least for just the 1 year. But the issue for me, not the issue, the challenge for me is, like, what's the alternative? I mean, the alternative is not to pay him so much or try to win that negotiation, but if it's 11-5 or I walk, like, what does the team look like if he walks? I don't know. Everyone could say, well, look at Dubois was traded from Winnipeg, and they seem to have played pretty well afterwards and haven't really been hurt by a star leaving. Now, he's not as good as Nylander, nowhere close, but Nylander can make it go without Matthews and Marner. Matthews and Marner have played together, mostly. Nylander sometimes up there, sometimes not. But Nylander, with a Tavares-Bertuzzi combo that is not at the same level as Matthews or Marner, he's been on the ice for more goals for than any player on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, that's what he brings. That's why he makes him unique and important and special as a winger, that he can kind of drive it on his own. So, yeah, it's probably a bit on the slightly steeper on the in the range, but it's around the number, and it's still, and we'll get into this in the pregame, by percentage of the cap, which I know you love terms like this, but based on the percentage of the money available, he's still getting paid less than Mitch Marner's gotten paid when he signed his contract.
Well, he could have pulled the Cutter Gauthier and said, I'm not playing for you anymore, and I'm going to ghost you, Brad and Brendan. We're not going down this road. Where do you stand, Johnny, on Cutter Gauthier versus the city of Philadelphia?
So, bad city to pick a fight with because they are fired up. Mm-hmm. So, extra security whenever Anaheim gets there and Cutter Gauthier does. But generally speaking, I have no problem for any athlete who has leverage to take on the system and make his situation more amenable to him or her. Whatever that, for whatever reason. I don't like the coach. I don't like the city. I want to be closer to family. I got buddies who play for Anaheim. I like Sun. I don't care what the reason is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to matter to me. If it's important enough to him and he can pull it off, then no problem with it. I don't hold it against him that as a draft-eligible kid, he said, "Yo, pick me, Philly. I'm a Philadelphia Flyer. I'm made for this town." But he's 18 years old. One, they can change their mind. Two, I don't really put that much stock into what kid might say in the pre-draft interview about trying to please the team that's interviewing him. Now, the only issue I have is whatever happened, and I don't think it's torts, and I don't even think it's the city of Philadelphia. I don't think it's a Kevin Hayes issue, like talking to him. I think there's something about, him turning pro and development and paths to the NHL that he wasn't in agreement with. But not talking to Danny Briere or Keith Jones, if they go over to see you, they're not going to scream at you. They're going to have a conversation. You're making an adult decision. You have to respond in an adult-like manner, which is giving the respect to these guys. Say, sure, I'll sit down with you. I'm going to be firm in my decision. I'll tell you why, and we'll go on from there. But I have no problem with it. And I tuned into the Flyer intermissions just to watch the reaction of the panelists and the righteous indignation that they were spewing about how dare some kid who's never played possibly pull this move. I'm like, who's your best player in the last 30 years? How did you get him? He was Eric Lindros.
Yep.
He didn't want to play in Quebec. He said, trade me. I'm not playing here. And they had to. And Philly got him, and Philly loved it. Now they'll say, well, he told them beforehand, and Cutter Gauthier backed out his word. I don't want to hear that.
That's sports, though, Johnny. You get pissed off and you hate it, and you try to, rally towels, and this is Philly, and don't screw with us.
Absolutely.
That's a part of sports.
And I'm pointing out the logic in their emotion. That's all. I love the emotion. It's going to be miserable his entire career every time he goes there, which will make it kind of fun.
You might want to call Ben Simmons to see what it's like.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Well, I guess. I mean, turn off your social media. Like he could not be further away in the NHL if he tried. He's in Newport Beach. Mm-hmm. He'll be okay.
Well, that's where I'm curious about the development, if that's a part of it. Like, you're in Anaheim. Like, they are not in a good place right now. They haven't been for a couple of years. It's not like you're going to a team that has a recent history of churning out, stars and developed stars. And he's
Tampa.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you went to Tampa, it's like, all right, you're going to be insulated there pretty well. They're going to treat, and Anaheim will treat him well, obviously. And they paid the price, and they step in, and they love that they got him. And Philly's so pissed off because how good Cutter Gauthier is. Like, you just saw him up close and personal. He's their number one prospect. Like, he's a stud. Like, him and that what's his name? Matvei Michkov. That's.
Oh, by the way, was drafted to Philly because he told teams ahead of Philly that he wouldn't play there.
Right.
Just as an addendum.
And he dropped to 7 so that they could pick him.
Right.
But yeah, I was saying I was surprised by Philly's reaction as a team. But I think it started with their CEO, like the chairman and CEO, Dan Hilferty. Right. If the CEO is coming out and blasting a player, then I don't know if Keith Jones has a choice but to do the same. Danny Briere do the same. Like I've never seen that, Johnny. I've never seen a CEO of a company go on the attack like he did last night for a kid that's never played a game on the team.
No, me neither. And I think like the CEO should almost be above the fray and this kind of stuff. But I think O makes a good point that this is Philly, this is the city, this is the sort of personality organization. And if you remember the last couple of years, like they lost sort of their sort of heart and soul, like their identity. There's nobody in the building. They were terrible. They were rolling over. They weren't physical. And I think this whole thing is part of like us against the world. You mess with Philly, we're going to hate you forever. Like I think it's all part of like bringing back what the Flyers think they once were. So there's more to it. But I mean, Danny and Keith Jones expressed frustration, but pretty diplomatically. And I don't have a problem with the team saying, if you don't want to be here, you won't be here. Totally fine with that. Like, you want to tell us you want to get traded, then fine, we'll get you the hell out of here. We don't want you here if you don't want to be here. I have no problem with that attitude by an organization. But the CEO kind of spitting fire and talking about how they're going to hate him the rest of his strike.
Yeah.
Just relax, dude.
I know.
Right?
Like, I don't feel bad for him.
Settle
Wait till he
down.
comes back to Philly. It's like, dude, you're a suit. Like, you're a CEO.
What are you going to say to him?
Yeah, what are you personally going to say? You're going to throw batteries at Cutter Gauthier when he steps on the ice?
Right.
Anyway, like when
batteries are thrown, guess who's going to get sued? Your company.
Yes, exactly. You might that I do wonder how the league, like where Bettman would come in on this. If he's like, this is a player
sure
that
doesn't love it.
Yes, I know you're not happy that he froze you out, that he demanded a trade. Obviously, they're not happy with that. And again, I said this earlier, Johnny. It's funny how it's like, if you don't want to be a Flyer, you won't be. Well, he told you he didn't want to be, and you didn't take that because you were dying to make sure he changed his mind. But once they realized that he wouldn't, all of a sudden it was, if you don't want to be a Flyer, you won't be, which is fine. And I understand their attitude and the message they're trying to send. But like, if that Cutter Gauthier rolls into Philly and something happens, these comments from the CEO,
nothing's gonna happen. Let's not get stupid here.
Okay, I hope you're right. I mean, I like, would the players care about this?
They're idiots out there.
Like, if you're a player on that team and every single person in your organization,
everyone
has made
in
it clear
Philly
they hate
hated
this guy.
Ben Simmons' guts, and he did what he did, and he had to go back there and play when he was with Brooklyn, and it was just, they booed him, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think you're right. That's probably what's going to happen.
Of course, that's what's going to happen. But just like it seemed like everyone was a bit caught up in the emotion of the day, and maybe cooler heads. Not that they shouldn't be frustrated. I get they could be frustrated, but just let it go. He's gone, and not to mention, like, for having no leverage, they made a pretty good trade. Like, Jamie Drysdale's a good player.
Yeah.
If he can stay healthy, he can be a right shot, point producing, swift skating, outlet passing defenseman for 15 years. He'll be really good as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big opportunity for him, right? Now Tortorella's in his corner, and that can be tough, but Torts can build you up, man. He can definitely do that.
He's not bad for little young players. I played for Torts when we had Brad Richards, a young player, and Vinny LeCavalier, a young player, and they were trying to get these guys to grow into the guys they became. Even Marty St. Louis was young in his career, and Torts is good for them. He's hard, but he's good. If you take it in, he will make you a better player.
All right, Johnny. We'll leave it there, buddy. Leaf Sharks tonight. Good to have you back over here, and enjoy the game tonight. We'll catch you in the pregame. I'm so excited. From the gold medal pandemonium to the San Jose Sharks. Yes. Let's go. Enjoy your evening. Thank you, buddy. There's Mike Johnson joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Check out Maple Toyota's huge truck and SUV lineup, including Tundra, 4Runner, Highlander, and Grand Highlander, in stock and ready to deliver. Visit mapletoyota.com. I feel like the Leafs, I mean, they should win big tonight. They're massive favorites. It's like minus 500. Oh, it's crazy. It's insane. I think it's the biggest favorite. Now you got the dreaded first game back on the East Coast. That's what I'm saying. They just went through California. The only thing they got going with them is San Jose came with them. San Jose is flying literally with them up here. And then I think they go to Dallas on Thursday. And then Islanders. Is it Islanders? Yeah, the Island, yeah. And then they got a home and home. Avs, two home games, Saturday, Sunday. Colorado Saturday, Detroit Sunday at home. Telling you, Hildeby on Sunday. You're calling your shot because Jones is going tonight. Like, again, you just saw the Sharks. This guy. You saw what they are like, and you're still going with Marty Jones. That's the thing that is, interesting about this team and Martin Jones. You have to give him flowers and the credit for what he's doing,
but what the players are also doing in front of him is a whole heck of a lot better than what they were doing for Samsonov and even Joseph Woll. Like, you look at a few of those wins that Woll won early in the year, he won those games.
It didn't matter what they were doing for Samsonov. People would cross the blue line and be digging pucks out of the net.
100%.
3 of them in the first period. And then they had to chase the game and play like dummies, and then they'd get dummied 7-4.
100%. And it was gross what we were saying happened there. The guy just couldn't stop just a regular shot on goal. But when we were having that conversation with Johnny, when you asked to put a Jerry's on who starts, Jones or Joseph Woll, like, yes, Jones is playing great right now, but the team is also playing a lot better in front of him. What happens when that starts to break down? Like, do you trust that, like, if you are the general manager, if you're Brad Treliving, do you trust that this is the style that the Leafs are going to play going forward?
Look, it better be, and they should all understand that. They've been around
That's
the block.
been the conversation.
And if you have a dip,
years.
you have a dip. But the general philosophy, and I have no idea why it's taken this so long, but they figured out what they're doing. There's no reason there should be a complete fall off.
Yeah.
None whatsoever.
Yeah. Saw it happen last year, though, around the same time, around Christmas. They figured it out. There was injuries. They ended up kind of banding together, and you saw that they played great defensively, and then it kind of fizzled away.
Well, it shouldn't fizzle away. They've done enough fizzling in the first half.
I agree.
They got the record they got.
I agree.
Now it's time to just move forward with all positivity.
But that's when you're really going to be able to judge Martin Jones, is when that does happen. Is he there to make the big stop?
He's made some pretty big stops, Sal's brother. It's not like he's facing 9 shots a night.
Well, I get that, but like in terms of expected goals, like the Leafs are in like top
we don't
6
do that
right
on this show. We do not.
Their
do that
defensive
garbage
analytics show they've been
that.
a top 10 team over the
Which
course
is
of the
great.
last 5 games, right?
great.
Prior to that, they're like a bottom 10 team.
I see Sal's brother. And listen, he had starts prior to that as well, where they were still a bottom 10 team. But
Yeah.
it's been a good story. You can't spin Martin Jones.
No, I think it's
negatively,
great.
Sal's brother.
I
It's been a great
agree.
story.
He's been terrific. I just
Okay.
I want to wait and see when he's
I
under
understand.
siege. Can he win them a couple of games
All right.
before making that determination?
Raptors in LA playing the Lakers tonight. We'll get into that. Leafs Sharks tonight. You're on the panel. Say hi to everyone over there. The quiz tonight. We look forward to it. Al's brother sticking around. I'm Bryan Hayes. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Jeff Saturday will join us in about a half an hour. Jack Armstrong in about an hour. The Raptors in action tonight in LA. I saw something online about Dennis Schroeder. Remember when he was offered like $84 million to stay with the Lakers and he turned it down?
Yeah.
And he's saying, the reason I did that was because my advisor advised me to do it.
Like an Edwin Encarnacion situation.
Yeah, Edwin was offered. Was that with the Jays? He was offered a certain
he was
amount?
offered, I think it was 4 years, 20 sheets, $80 million contract. And then his agent reportedly told him, I think there's more available for you out in the market. Goes to the market. And that was kind of the year that the long ball didn't pay off.
Mm-hmm.
And they decided to go with Kendrys Morales. That money dried up. And when he came back, they're like, sorry, we paid somebody. And he had to sign a 3-year deal at only $60 million. We left 20 guaranteed on the table.
Yeah. Well, and in the end, I guess that kind of was the right move even for the Jays because that was when they had just moved off Bautista, I believe. Or
He still had one more year, but
maybe
they were
in 17 he got the
transitioning.
1-year deal, but 17, like Morales was a stupid signing too
That was
because they were
terrible.
trying to hold on to 15, 16.
Yeah.
It was Shapiro and Atkins, and they were awful in 17, awful in 18, started to turn, I believe, in 19 into 20. But yeah, Schroeder ended up signing, was it a 1-year deal in Boston, I think, for like $5 million. Like it's got to be sickening walking into that stadium tonight, knowing that you could still be a Laker and still be making a lot of money. And he turned it down. And like there was
playing with LeBron.
Cody Franson had that. That was famously on the table. Cody Franson, the Leafs were going to offer him term and a lot of money. And he turned it down because his reps, his agent said, turn it down. We can get more.
Wasn't there.
And it wasn't there. He ended up signing like a $2 million deal in Buffalo or something. And next thing you knew, he was out of the league. It's tough. Like that's the nature of athletes. Say it all the time. We had Willie on yesterday. He's like, I just told my agent, call me when there's something big. Now Willie is like he's at a level
He's a
where
superstar.
he's making money. The Leafs wanted him. If he hit free agency, I don't believe he would make the amount of money he just signed for. I don't believe for a second he was getting $92 million total.
Yeah.
Over 7 years from any other team in the league.
That would have to been like 13. I did 13.2.
Yeah, he's not. He wasn't going to get that, but he was going to get a lot of money.
Yeah.
He was still going to get probably $11 million a year, maybe 11.5 like he did. So he was still going to make a lot of money. It wasn't like he was going to go somewhere else and sign a 1-year deal for $2 million.
No.
But Schroeder, Franson, Edwin, there's been countless examples of that, man.
There's a list.
Yeah, it's tough because you put your faith in your representative. You believe that they're going to have your best interest in hand. It's not that they don't. It's just they completely misread the market. And what it's basically saying is the team that had you fell in love with you, and the rest of the league does not see you the same way.
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily the exact same thing, but I listened when Kevin Kiermaier joined the show last week, and he was saying like he felt like he had a better season last year than the year prior, but he gave up a 2-year deal, I believe, last year, he said, to go to the Dodgers, gave up a little bit of money because he felt, I'm going to build up my name again with the Blue Jays. I'll have more of an impact, more of a significant role, have a great season, and then try and parlay that into a longer-term deal the following season. It wasn't there this year. He had to come back on another 1-year deal.
Yeah, and
So
admitted the Jays were the only team.
Yeah.
Well, and I think he was more like he was flabbergasted that there wasn't a market.
Yes.
It's like one thing to say.
He figured there would be.
He figured and understandably, I actually had
year.
such appreciation for his candor during that interview because
agreed.
he took us through it. Like you said, he said the Dodgers offered him something, the Jays offered him something. You would assume maybe the Rays were willing to bring him back coming off the injury. And this year he stays healthy. He's the best 9-hitter in the league.
Gold Glove winner,
and nobody's out there for him.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
It was kind of perplexing to hear because you would think someone would have had to at least make a phone call and even a lowball offer to bring him in as a fourth outfielder given his glove.
Right.
But apparently not. That didn't happen. But hey, I mean, he's a Blue Jay. I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. If you're the Jays.
He was one of the guys where if you look at the offseason, you look at the players who I wanted the Jays to re-sign and bring back. He was one of the guys at the top of the list. And then who was the flamethrowing bullpen guy they brought in late from St. Louis? They made that trade. Jordan.
Yeah, now you're
it's
jamming me up, baby.
Jordan Hicks. Yeah, Jordan Hicks. I was another guy who I was hoping that they would find some sort of resolution and bring him back. So obviously that one didn't happen. I believe he's still out there.
Yeah,
actually.
he is.
So maybe there could be something eventually. Maybe he circles back, much to the same as Kevin Kiermaier. But hey, I'm
It worked out well.
happy.
It worked out for
both
Kiermaier.
sides.
I mean, listen, Chapman's still out there. There's still a number of guys who are still out there.
Yeah.
J.D. Martinez is a name that's been linked here. Jock Peterson's been linked here. It's wild that we're into January here, and there's still a lot of names.
Yeah.
And yet the
This
team
happens
that's
a lot in baseball, I find, though.
it does. Baseball always operates differently, but the team that is not accepting of that timeline are the Dodgers. Like they just signed Teoscar Hernandez, and they
Outrageous.
deferred money, which is insane. Like
a 1-year deal, and you're deferring cash?
money to, I want to say it was like 2030 through 2036 or something like that.
is
A
the
1-year
point?
deal at $23 million. And Teoscar, we know what he's about. He's a power bat. He's a guy that will step in there. Like they are going to have so much talent. I don't even know where Teoscar will hit in the lineup. He's a hot and cold hitter, but when he's hot, he is a rock star at the plate. And yet he's probably a 6-hitter out there in LA. Is he he'll move up and down depending on the
he's
pitching
got the
matchup.
power, so you want the power more in the middle of the lineup. But in terms of being, the best bat on the team, probably in that 6, 7, 8.
Like it's going to be
maybe,
Betts, it's going to be Ohtani, it's going to be Freeman. That's your 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Like maybe he bats cleanup, but he's competing with other big bats in that lineup, and yet I have such an appreciation for the Dodgers because it's not even the haves and the have-nots. It's the Dodgers and everyone else. Like they have spent. I saw the tweet. I got to look this up.
They've spent more money
than like
the
everyone
rest
else
of baseball.
combined.
Yeah,
this is it. I saw it. Spot Track tweeted this out the other day. The Dodgers' total offseason spending thus far, $1.202 billion. Every other MLB team combined $1.225 billion. So they're like $250 million. I'm not even getting that right. $25 million behind the rest of baseball combined.
That's
like
insane.
basically the Dodgers on their own. Now the $700 million to Ohtani is going to skew the numbers significantly, but
the fact that
that's a wild
deferred over
look.
the next 30 years.
It's a wild look for the rest of baseball. Like what is the issue? Why? Ohtani clearly is different, but why are the Dodgers continuously getting deals done when there's other suitors out there and they can't get guys to sign.
Now, granted, that's going to change. By the end of the offseason, you're going to have Matt Chapman. You're going to have all these other guys who are still out there who are going to get big, $100+ $200+ million contracts. Like, those are still out there to be signed. So that number will look a little different going forward. But to your point, yeah, like it's absolutely insane that the Dodgers are out here and just spending money and just writing checks to whoever they want for almost $23.5 million for Teoscar Hernandez. $23.5 million.
But it's a one-year deal. That's the thing. And in baseball, like, why not? There had to be other suitors that were willing to go close to that, you would think.
I thought I had read that he did have multi-year deals available, but obviously the 23.5 with deferments made more sense.
Well, how can the deferments make more sense?
I don't know.
Like, most players do not want deferrals. You want the money now so you can build that money up. Like, Ohtani's a freak of nature when it speaks to economics. Like, the guy, the quicker you can get the money, the better it generally is. Like, most economic advisors and financial advisors will say, give me the money so I can make it start to work for you.
Make your money into money.
Immediately, exactly. Like, you're putting deferrals down the line. It's still going to get to you at some point. But I don't know. Like, I wonder if this Dodgers ownership has some sort of plan to pull the chute in the next 5 years.
Well, that's what I keep thinking to myself. Like, when those deferrals kick in, it's like, hey, we won 3 World Series, 4 World Series. Well, these guys were making whatever with Ohtani's prime.
Yep.
This Yamamoto kid, we have Betts. We got all these superstars. We won 3-4 titles. We got 15 years of crap, but we're still paying these guys.
That's somebody else's problem.
That's right.
Could be somebody else's problem. Jeff Saturday will join us in about 20 minutes. Mike Vrabel fired today down in Tennessee. What does that mean for the coaching carousel in the NFL? Michigan winning big last night. Sounds like Harbaugh might want to flip. If so, where does he end up? We'll start looking ahead to the Super Wild Card Weekend. Not just the Wild Card Weekend, Al's brother. The Super Wild Card Weekend. We'll start looking ahead to that with Jeff in about 25 minutes. Jack Armstrong coming up too. Raptors continuing their West Coast trip. They're out the Lakers tonight. Al's brothers in here. I'm Bryan Hayes. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, TSN 1050's Leafs lineup. Your chance to win Leaf tickets every week, all season long. Every weekday, we announce a current or former Maple Leaf player. And on Fridays, you have a chance to call in and name the Leaf lineup of the week. This week, we're giving away tickets to see the Maple Leafs play the Jets January 24th. Plus, we're throwing in a $250 Vanilla Visa prepaid card with each pair of tickets to make it the ultimate game night. Vanilla Visa prepaid cards are available for purchase at Petro Canada. Today's player of the day is Tyler Bozak.
Ooh, Bozak.
Tyler Bozak, Stanley Cup winner. Tyler Bozak.
Yep.
Leafs Sharks tonight. I saw the All-Star voting has been updated, and William Nylander is leading the charge by a significant margin.
Not a big shock. Did you guys talk about the fact that Matthews got the nod over Willie, and like if he felt that slighted Nylander
I think it became clear after you learned from the league that Matthews and McDavid are going to be captains.
Yeah.
That's why Matthews got the nod.
I found it hard to believe, like just talking about even before, it would be really hard to believe the NHL leaving out their leading goal scorer. And granted, you knew whoever didn't get the original call was going to make it. Like, there was no doubt in my mind that both of those guys, maybe even Marner, maybe even Riley, end up at the All-Star game. There was a loud conversation that was had for about 48 hours leading up to the actual announcement. Mm-hmm. And then once it was made, it seemed like everyone was like, oh, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, well, listen, again, he's the marquee guy. Like, not to delve back into the contract negotiation, but what is pretty incredible about what Nylander got is he plays the wing, and he's not their best player. He's not the marquee guy, yet he's got one of the 5 highest contracts in the league.
Yeah.
Like, Matthews is the marquee guy. He's the number 1 center. He's their best player. Like it's no different in Edmonton that if Draisaitl's having a better first 35 games, McDavid's still a guy. That's what Matthews represents here. And Matthews is going to be the captain of one of the teams picked. So if it's Matthews versus McDavid, you have to make sure Matthews gets there. I'm sure he would have been voted in, but it has a different feeling if he's just an automatic guy. And I think he's built himself up to deserve that. Like a lot of other, top 10 superstar players in this league have, just automatic. You're the guy that's going.
Yeah.
And Nylander will get there. He's getting a ton of votes. again, I think he deserves to go over Mitch
100%,
Marner, but
100%.
Marner is is behind him in votes, and that's fan votes. There's no science behind that. That's just Willie getting, a ton of love, and he deserves it the way he's been playing.
Is there a specific number of forwards in defense that have to go, or is it just 8 skaters?
No, I believe defense have to go. I think obviously goalies have to be.
Yeah,
there.
there's
You
4
have to have
goalies.
a
I know
certain
that.
amount of goalies.
I know there's gonna be 4 goalies, and I think I believe it's 8 skaters.
Okay, that'd be great. That'd be awesome. But if you're going to do that, then what's the point of having every team represented if you don't respect every position?
I 100% agree with you, Hayes. I 100% agree with you because I do recall last year, it might have actually been the Atlantic team, where they did not even have a defenseman on their roster.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how are you going to have the All-Star game with only... Because if you look at the original list of players who were put out there, 32, I think there was only like 4, maybe 5 defensemen who were actually picked to go into the All-Star game. Like, I don't know. It's bizarre.
You should be respecting the position. If
you're going to have 8 goalies... Like,
now that's
why would you
mandatory.
say
It's mandatory. You're playing 3-on-3. It ultimately doesn't matter that much. It's the
Yeah.
All-Star game. But like Cale Makar should be there, which he is, I believe. Although, did McKinnon get it in Colorado?
No, Makar did get it.
Yeah, so Makar should get it. Adam Fox should probably be there. There's a number of guys that are superstars that likely should be in there. It's just
Fox didn't get there though, so he needs to be voted in.
is it Panarin
They
or
want
Shesterkin?
Shesterkin.
And Shesterkin hasn't been great this year.
No.
But they needed a goalie.
Well, I think
Statistically, he hasn't been great.
right. I think the Panarin came out and said I think he's expecting a baby that week.
Yeah, so
which
he's
is
out.
why he just took himself out of the running.
Right.
Which is why Igor ended up getting the nod.
Anyway, I would guess Fox will probably get there.
I would agree.
Via fan vote or people getting injured and, decisions are made.
Does Ovi get the vote?
I think Ovi wants to go. I think Ovi would probably come up with a bad hip or a bad groin. He's done that the last couple of years, I believe.
Yeah, true.
And he's taken his penalties, missed a game or whatever in and around the All-Star game, and there's nothing they can do once that happens. He might want to come up because it could be his last ride or one of his last rides. It's in Toronto. I don't know if that matters to him. I'd like to see Sid coming up, though.
Yeah.
Like that. Sid does not have a lot of All-Star game history.
Yeah, he's missed a lot. Like,
He
where
missed
he's
a lot
either
because
been
of injuries
injured.
and the Olympics
Yeah.
and with the lockouts and all that. So, hopefully Sid comes up. But
He's having a hell of a year, too.
he's been outstanding.
I feel like that's not getting talked about enough. Like, Marchand was on the McAfee show about a week ago, and he was giving some love. Now, they were going into Pittsburgh, so I was, it was on his
And
mind.
they're boys. They're from
boys,
Halifax.
Nova. But, I mean, even he said he's still one of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's fallen off on Ovi, which to me makes it even more impressive what Sid's doing this year. Like, he's absolutely still, to me, he's got to be one of the 10 best players in the world still.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'm curious, like, where did you have him on your
I had him
50
outside
list?
of the top 10. I had him inside somewhere between 11 and 15, I believe.
Yeah.
Like I
Right
just had him on the
around
outside, and TSN
Yeah.
10, or TSN's top 50 had him ultimately just out of the top 10 for the first time in his career, but in and around there. It's not like he was falling into the 20s or 30s.
Splitting
But
hairs.
yeah, you're right. He has been, and 5-on-5, he's been a rock star. They're starting to play better. They won big last night. Like Pittsburgh's still in the running. I'm not sure they're going to be a playoff team. That factors into the attention that he gets. The baton has been passed. It's McDavid's league now. Matthews, Bedard. Like you talk about driving ratings in the States, Bedard drives it more than anybody at this point. Like that opening night game, I believe, was the highest rated game of the season on ESPN. That may have changed recently, but it outrated the Winter Classic. Connor Bedard's opening, which might have been against Sid, actually.
It was.
And the Pittsburgh
Yeah.
Penguins, which would speak to it because it's Bedard and
Crosby.
But, like we always, bring it up from time to time. If a best-on-best started tonight, like Sid is a huge part of this to the point where he's still playing well enough. He's probably still your captain.
Yeah.
Like it's not a scenario where, like remember in 98, it was awkward. Gretzky was there, but it was Lindros's team. So Lindros was the captain. I could see Sid being a little bit uneasy with that because McDavid hasn't been given the opportunity to be the man, and he will be the man. Like it will be McDavid's team, but Sid's not like a fourth line. I can't pull my weight type of guy right now. He's still a rock star, man.
Like it's that's what you're looking at down the middle. McDavid and Crosby, and they're still going to be absolute studs.
How about McKinnon? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, when we
Another
talk
guy.
about Canada versus the U.S., you still got McDavid into McKinnon into Sid.
Yeah,
That is
tough.
that cannot be beat. That cannot be beat. The Americans cannot beat that one.
Center-wise,
1, 2,
yeah.
3.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's close. And I obviously love Matthews. I love Jack Hughes.
Yeah, Matthews, Eichel,
Matthews
Hughes is.
It's not the same as McDavid,
I agree.
McKinnon.
No, I
Sid right
agree.
now.
I agree, but I don't think it's as far as it sounds like
not.
you're suggesting.
No, it's not. I'm being a little bit bombastic. There's some hyperbole there. It's not that massive of a gap,
But it's still.
but it's a gap.
Yeah.
It's a gap. Like, Canada has got the best 1, 2, 3 in the world still. I mean, you could throw Braden Point in there in some capacity too, and maybe move Sid to the wing or McKinnon to the wing. Canada's still going to show up to play.
Sounds like Willie, Mitch, Riley, and Tavares are currently leading the skaters in the East. Like
Okay.
them all there.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's going to be injuries and injury replacements, and if it's in Toronto, there's going to be at least 3 guys.
Yeah.
Minimum 3.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff Saturday, Jack Armstrong coming up. Leafs Sharks tonight. Raptors Lakers tonight. Our best bets brought to you by FanDuel. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.